Have you ever bought something and said to yourself, why the heck didn't I buy this sooner?
Nope.
Well, in today's video, we're gonna go over 5 tools that made me say just that. The first tool on our list is the overpriced Festool Sander.
How dare you?
I happen to have the ETS EC155. For Festool, that means that it's a 6-inch-ish sander with a 5mm sanding stroke. I originally bought this because where's that little guy? Oh, where did I put that thing? Oh, there it is. My little rigid sander started to make all kinds of funny noises and seem like it was going to be headed to the great beyond very soon. And man, am I glad I did. This sander truly is a game changer. To be honest, when I bought this, it was because it was a 6-inch sander I could get that day. Little did I know that it would change sanding for me forever. The 6-inch disc is about a 30% increase over a 5-inch disc, and that makes sanding large flat surfaces much faster. And even though the Festool has a larger disc, it actually comes in at more than half the weight of the rigid 5-inch. Hey, real quick, I want to let you know I was wrong. When shooting the B-roll for this video, I went ahead and weighed the sanders, and I found the Festool was about 2.7 pounds and the rigid was about 3.4 pounds. So the Festool's still lighter, but not quite as much as the internet says. So maybe don't believe everything on the internet. Back to the video. And that can make edge sanding a whole lot easier. It also is loaded with a bunch of features like electronic active vibration stop, which basically monitors the sander while it's running and stops vibrations before they occur, which can really reduce the fatigue you feel after a long day of sanding. It also has carbide tip sanding brakes, which ensure almost an immediate stop of the sander when you turn it off, to help prevent you from gouging the piece that you just finished sanding. It truly is worth the 57,500 pennies you spend on this thing at the time of this recording. Now, I do want to say a lot of people have good things to say about the Mirka Duros. I've never used it, so I can't give you my personal experience, but from everything I've seen, it looks like a pretty good sander too. So maybe that's something to look into if you don't want Festool products in your shop.
Why don't you make like a tree and get the f out of here?
But whatever you decide, I personally couldn't recommend ditching this thing anymore, unless you want to keep it around for bashing on in YouTube videos. Next up, the no-duh trigger clamps. So I'll be the first to admit, I'm probably way late to this party, but that's exactly why they make the list. In case there's anyone watching this and they don't own these, please add them to your list of tools you need to buy. So before I tell you you need to buy these, maybe I should explain why for the longest time I didn't have them. You see, it was always my assumption that trigger clamps were no good for glue ups. And that's what we use clamps for, right? I mean, why would I buy these if I can get a F clamp that does way more clamping force and is cheaper, right? So did I change my mind? No. I still think that trigger clamps are not good for glue ups. I mean, yes, ideally you would not need 1,000 pounds of clamping force for your glue up if your joinery is good. But perfect. Who am I kidding? I'm a hack. But what I did realize is you don't need 1,000 pounds of force to hold a piece of wood to your workbench while you cut the end of it off. You see, for some, time is money. For me, time is time. And I'd rather spend my time building block towers with my son or watching the newest Ted Lasso episode with my wife. Not fiddling with an F-clamp for 20 seconds to make a cut that I can do in 5. You see what I mean? Not every tool has to be super lavish to make a huge impact on your workflow or your general happiness in the shop. Another clamp I haven't tried, but I've heard great things about is the Rockler spring clamp. Now, this may be a great choice if you're trying to save even more time in the shop, so you can get back to doing what you love. But whatever you decide, please consider your time and how valuable it really is. Number 3 on the list, the obnoxiously loud oscillating multi-tool. Mine happens to be skinned in black and yellow because, well, it's the best.
You.
Have you ever bought a tool and you were so impressed by the way it worked that you just went around everywhere trying to find something to do with it? That's what it was like when I bought this thing. This tool is just so versatile. I mean, you can flush trim with it. You can plunge cut with it. Heck, you can even sand with it. I actually just had a buddy tell me that he was just starting out his power tool collection. Can you guess what tool I told him he needed to buy first? That's right, oscillating multi-tool, baby. Now, normally this would be the part where I suggest to you some alternatives. Unfortunately, this is the alternative. Think about it. It's a oscillating multi-tool. A multi-tool. To replace it, you need to buy all the tools that it replaces. Sorry, just go and buy one. You won't regret it. Before I move on, I'd like to do an honorable mention. Now, it's not exactly a tool, but it definitely falls into the category of why the heck didn't I start using this sooner? Rubio Monaco, baby!
No! God, please, no! No!
I know, another YouTuber talking about Rubio. I'm sorry, but I just feel like I'd be doing a disservice to you all if I didn't mention its super simple application process or its ability to be touched up super easy, or even its natural, beautiful luster it adds to every piece of furniture that's so blessed with its presence. Or its... yeah, I guess that's about it. Next up on the list is the Thank You Austria drill bits. These are the chrome vanadium drill bits from Fish. I last introduced them in my Don't Buy These Tools video as an alternative to the general purpose drill bits I had been using for so long. I got these back in June of 2022, and let me just say, I haven't drilled a hole yet that I regretted.
That's what she said. Or he said.
These drill bits feature a brad point tip that helps prevent the drill bit from moving as you start to drill into the wood. They also have a spur on either side of the brad point that kind of makes them act more like a Forstner bit than some other drill bits, leaving a very clean entry into the wood when you run them at the right speed. Speaking of Forstner bits, these are far superior when it comes to drilling out holes for dowels because the flutes help remove the material out of the hole instead of just smashing it in more like Forstner bits tend to do. Now obviously these aren't the only brad point drill bits on the market. I mean, they are the ones that I own, and I do think Fish has done a pretty good job of showing that they're a reputable brand, especially when it comes to drilling products. But there are some decently rated products on Amazon if you want to give those a shot. Just keep in mind that sometimes you do get what you pay for.
Ah, so you come crawling back, you cheap sack of
Number 5 is the might as well be J-Katz's saw blade. If you're anything like me, your first table saw blade came from one of two places. One, with your saw, or two, from the big box store down the road. And while that blade might be acceptable, it is definitely not the best. Now, there are a ton of options when looking for a table saw blade. I personally didn't want to do all that research. So instead, I trusted my money to someone that has established himself in the woodworking community as a reliable source. Jonathan Katzmoses.
Yo, buddy.
Now, if you've seen Jonathan's video, A Comprehensive Guide to Table Saw Blades at 60,000 FPS slow-mo, you'll know that Jonathan is a huge fan of CMT. And from what I can tell, for good reason. These things have massive carbide teeth, which are gonna allow you for more sharpenings, so you can do more cuts, so you can keep the blade for longer. Thus, saving a little bit of money, probably, if you send them out to get sharpened. That's besides the point. A lot of them have this chrome coating. This makes it a lot easier to clean the blade, which also makes it last longer. There's all kinds of little things that CMT talks about that make their blades great, but simply put, they just work. Now, I don't want to sound like a shill, especially because CMT isn't paying me a lick. So here's an alternative to look into. Amana. Now, I only own one of their blades, and it happens to be the 60-tooth laminate and trim, but this thing works great on laminate and trim. And if there are router bits or anything to go off of, you really can't go wrong with any Amana product. Well, now that I told you all about tools you should buy, how about a video where I tell you about some tools I wish I just would have said no to? Bye!